I'm AJ.
I'm Sunny.
I'm Randy, and this is Bourbon, Wine, and True Crime, a podcast where three exhausted, but we're here. Friends sit down once a week to drink together virtually and discuss true crime. Hello, ladies.
Hello.
Hello.
We discuss
But
true
we're here.
crime. We catch up. We cry. We do lots of things.
So many things.
I'm awake before noon. I'm proud of myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
proud of you.
too.
Before anybody comes at me in the comments, I wake up at 4 a.m. during the week, so fuck off.
I just don't even know how you physically do that. Like where I have to be I'm on the same schedule. Like I'm up at 6:30 whether I'd like to be or not. Like that's just happening.
Nope.
And I know when we were there, I was like, Randy, we've been awake for 3 hours. Are you gonna be awake? And you're like, no. Like
So for those of you, our listeners who follow us on social media, we did get to have a weekend together 2 weeks ago that was short, fast, and furious and awesome, and we had so much fun. But yes, Randy slept and we're like, we have coffee.
Well,
she's like, I'll have tea.
Well, it was funny because we were supposed to go to the zoo the Saturday that you guys were here, and then it snowed and it was 24 degrees out.
I was
aggressively all day.
I was going to pack my swimsuit because I've been suntanning here. And so I was like, I'll just continue it there. Nope.
It was so funny because you guys like just looked out the window and were like, what is that?
I'm
Spring in the
sad.
springs.
It was such a shock, to say the least. That was not anywhere what we were expecting, but
it was very pretty.
It was very pretty, and it worked out beautifully. We got pickles.
We did.
We went to a winery. It was beautiful.
It was a fun week, and we wanted to record in person, but we just didn't have the time because it was, like you said, a very, very quick weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a lot of fun.
Lots and lots of fun.
What are you guys drinking?
Oof.
Coffee.
It's early Sunday. My liver can't handle anything right now. I gotta wait a bit.
I have tea, and then I have these Vizzy seltzers that Sunny left when she was here.
Nice.
Yeah.
Little hair o' the dog.
Very nice. Yes, that's necessary. I have something, a prop in honor of Sunny's tiny hands. I'm gonna wear my tiara because it is May, and therefore it is my birthday month, because as a Taurus we celebrate the entire month.
My friend Shay is a Libra, and she also has her birthday month.
So tiny, and it makes me feel better at night. Like we were just, so before we started recording, everybody, like it's been a very sad 2 weeks for me. My baby Rosa's was taken away very suddenly, so it's been really sad. So my tiara, it makes me happier today. Like I'm gonna wear it, and if I'm gonna, maybe it's a crooked crown. I don't know. I'm trying to get it straight, but whatever. It makes me happy.
I love it. It's gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
This was my homecoming crown. Oh, maybe like this. No. Oh well, whatever. We're just gonna wear it as it is. Cheers, everybody. Cheers.
It's gorgeous.
It's gorgeous.
Well, so what are we talking about today, ladies?
Well,
ladies,
I've got an update. I've got 2 updates on 2 of the cases that I've covered so far. We're going to talk a little bit about April Tinsley from our April 1st crimes. And then I'm going to give you an update on the Lori Vallow cult mom case, which I have been following obsessively because damn.
She's nuts.
It is amazing that we are part of the same species that do such heinous things. I just keep going, I'm not with them. We're separate. Came separately. Not in our party.
Ooh.
I know I talk about it a lot because I don't have children. I have no intention of having children. I don't particularly like children, but like the thought of intentionally hurting a child is just so alien to me. And I don't understand how these people can murder or abuse a child. I just like it's just so, my brain doesn't go there.
The ones that really kill me, and I won't go into any sort of like headline details, but when they're just infants.
Yeah.
That is like
awful. It's
you
so
don't deserve
awful.
to be alive if you did that to an infant. Like, yeah. And it happens way more than we care to acknowledge.
Just remove yourself.
Or want to. We don't need to have the mental capacity. Yeah, exactly. Be gone with you.
Well, I'm excited that we're going to hear some updates on the cases, and I am going to be covering some local news from Vegas, which I'm pretty stoked about. Although there's less than I thought there was going to be, but it's still interesting. So we're going to be talking about a little bit of Lake Mead.
I'm excited.
Oh yeah.
Love a good body of water full of bodies.
Oh, actually, and I have something that needs to be posted along with this. So I'm going to put it in our group chat.
That was way too funny.
Okay. Are you ready?
Okay.
I'm ready.
Yes.
Okay. So it's from Reddit and it's Shower Thoughts. And it says, people will swim in the ocean even though there are definitely many corpses in it. People will not swim in a pool with a corpse in it. Humans all have a corpse to water ratio that's acceptable for them to swim in. So.
Oh, that is accurate. That's funny. I love the realistic thoughts.
It's true. It's true. So yes. Well, so AJ, you wanna take it away with your updates?
Yes. So when we first talked about, we're going to start with April Tinsley. I did not have an update on her killer. So at the time, I mean, and pretty for a while, there was nothing new until the last several years where there has been an actual suspect or suspects that were valid, and then like bringing someone to justice, because it's been 30 something years. It's been a long time.
Yeah.
So here's our update. Killer finally caught. More than 30 years after her 1988 murder, justice was finally served for April Tinsley. In May 2018, investigators sent the suspect's DNA samples to a forensic company, which used the website GED Match. I'm not sure what that stands for, but I'll put it in our notes, to see if the suspect's relatives could be identified. So I'm assuming that's a genetic genealogy website. In July 2018, the list of suspects was narrowed down to two brothers, one of whom was John D. Miller, a mobile home resident of Grabille, Indiana. Miller seemed to fit the typical profile of a violent pedophile. He was described as an angry loner with poor hygiene and a short temper. He was once fired from a factory job for destroying a time clock. Probably most disturbing was Miller's tendency to walk a few hundred feet from his home to a local softball field where he would watch kids play.
Ew.
Nope.
After obtaining items from Miller's trash, investigators were able to match the suspect's DNA to Miller. Okay, let me round that out with just what he's been convicted of and what his sentence is. Let me just.
I hate that we have just like, oh yeah, like your typical pedophile profile. Like we just
just like casual. Like
it's like a normal thing now. It's disturbing on so many levels. Let me find where this was at. I'm so sorry, guys. Here
elevator music.
Okay, here we go. So when Miller was confronted by detectives and asked if he knew why they wanted to talk to him, police reported that Miller replied, April Tinsley. So they show up and they're like, do you know why we're here? And he immediately knows and says April Tinsley.
This
So
is 30 years later.
this is 30 years later. Miller
Oh,
confessed to murdering April, and in December 2018, he pled guilty and was sentenced to 80 years in prison, 50 years for the murder of April Tinsley, and 30 for child molestation. Keep in mind, he's been able to walk amongst civilians for the last 30 years and live his own human life. Meanwhile, he has destroyed the lives of children he's molested and killed this poor child. He is currently serving his sentence at the Newcastle Correctional Annex in Newcastle, Indiana. He will be eligible for release in July 2058 when he is 99 years old.
Nope.
Was he on the registry for anything else, like the sex offender registry?
I do not know. I do not know if he was or not. I can look that up and I can include it in our notes. So that's the update on April Tinsley's killer. When we left off on that case, I had not identified the perpetrator, the killer, etc. So we know where he is now, and he is thankfully rotting away in a insect-ridden prison.
Excellent.
Where he should be.
Where he should be.
Exactly
Cool.
where he should be.
I hate people. You know, there's this whole, like, we don't get political. I don't think this is political. I think it's just like basic civil rights. But you have so many of these governors that are targeting the LGBTQIA plus community. Just like they're grooming children. If we're talking statistics, you should be looking at the straight white men, because that's where the predator pool is.
Let's ban vacation Bible schools for a while, shall we?
All we're going to do, we're already listening to everybody anyway. So if they say the word females, then that's it. We're done. And then
that was a struggle for me, because like being in the military, it's males and females, right? And that's just part of our like basic everyday, lingo, like males and females. And I really had to make an effort to stop doing that. But what I've noticed with like the misogynists is they're like, oh, men do this and men do this, and then the females, and I'm like, ugh.
I want them to call us Iron Man instead. Because F-E, Iron Man, yeah, it's the same thing.
Same
female, Iron Man. I just feel like it rolls off the tongue more easily.
I agree.
You know how so TikTok is an algorithm, right? So mine varies between like animal videos and like funny videos and like feminist videos and things like that. I don't know what side of TikTok I ended up on, but I thought it was a video stitch. And it was just this guy, and he's like, yeah, all these females want a high quality man, and they've been ran through by all these guys, and they're like single moms, and like, what's their worth? And I watched the video twice because I was waiting for the stitch. And it wasn't a stitch, it was just that video. And I was like, what is
this in my algorithm?
Here?
Also, what's a stitch?
It's where so somebody will take a video and like the video will play, and then they kind of like respond to it. So like they'll stitch it with their own content. So like it'll be like, oh, females do this, and then somebody will like jump in and be like, actually, blah, blah,
it's like, I don't know who invited you. It's the same guy who also would show up uninvited to a party. Like, no one wants you here, no one wants you there, no one wants you. You're so unwanted, sir.
I was so confused. I was just like, why are you on my where am I? Why am I?
Where am I? We are not in Kansas anymore.
Do you think that if they did refer to us as Iron Man and they did it in plural, do you think it would be Iron Men or Iron Mans? Because I struggle with this with Spider-Man as well, and I just have not gotten a clear answer.
Iron Man.
I'm gonna go with Iron Men.
Do you think so?
Yeah.
Also, though,
multiple Iron Mans?
Iron Man's just sounds funny. Iron Man's.
Spider-Man's.
Spider-Man's.
But I also kind of like don't want to be called man, like at all. Like not even Iron Man. Like that implies that I belong to the group of men. Ugh. Like why? Most men just
like, if you're going to call me anything in that context, like I will take Iron Men.
Mhm.
over female.
over female.
Yeah, I'm not sure I want to be lumped into that category of men, even if it's iron
I don't like
men.
that algorithm.
I don't either. Yeah.
I
So
don't
So
to my face.
anyway,
Anyway.
speaking of iron men, i.e. women, i.e. The worst kind of women. Well, that was a very bad segue, but we had to get into
that was
it
it was smooth, real smooth
we
transition.
had to jump into it somehow. So let's get back to Lori Vallow, who is one of the most horrific, like just horrible people on the planet. And I want to start this segment off by saying, if you have been watching any of the coverage, if you have had that come across your feed, if you've seen any pictures of her while she's in court, this bitch has her hair like done wavy. Her eyebrows are perfect. She's wearing red lipstick every day. And she walks into court like it's a complete inconvenience. She shouldn't have to be there. Why do I have to listen to this? And she's like this.
You know, that's probably how she feels.
That's exactly how she feels. That's exactly how she feels. And she's exuding that energy, which is not going to go well with the jury because all she looks concerned with is her appearance. Now, this is a former beauty queen. Like, she was in pageants. Like, she was always like the apple of the like, she was a cheerleader. And I get that. Like, that mentality, I guess, is hard to break. So what I've read, and this is just a total side note, is that the ladies in prison, like, she has like charmed everybody, and they've taught her how to like make lipstick, red lipstick out of Jolly Ranchers, how to make eyeliner and like eyebrow pencil with like crayon. And she has like her cosmetology license, like she knows how to like do hair and stuff. So it looks like to me like she's using like maybe sheets or a shirt to like bind her hair at night so that it's like wavy and curly in the morning for court. And it's just so disgusting and disturbing to me that that's where her energy is throughout
Not
this
like
entire
maybe reflection or
no, or
bettering oneself.
like even just like sit down, shut up, and look normal, just like behave. And she walks in like, all right. The second thing about her appearance, I just have to bitch about for just a minute. Do me a favor, take your phones right now and Google Lori Vallow mugshot or Lori Vallow court. And this woman is frowning, but smiling. And I don't think I've ever quite seen anything that disturbing on someone's face. She's like this. I can't even do it. Like,
Oh, I see what you mean.
like it's a full-on frown, but it's like her cheeks are
like a smirk too.
Very smirky, very like, it just enrages me. I cannot with this bitch. And so her trial is going on. Her husband, Chad Daybell, he is awaiting trial. They're not going to start his trial till Lori's is over. And then she has another trial that she has to go through. So, all right. So those are my two very superficial updates on my annoyance of this woman. So when we left off at that they had served Lori a notice to find her children and produce her children. And she failed to produce her kids. That's kind of where we left off. And at this point, Lori and Chad are married now. They're in Hawaii, and she's been served by police. She's like lounging by a pool in like a teal bathing suit. And she's been like, I think it's teal. She's been served to like produce the kids. And she's like, okay, thank you. They proceed to get a warrant for her vehicle. And in the vehicle, they find social security cards of Ty Lee and JJ. They find multiple copies of her previous husband's death certificate, Charles Vallow, or not Charles Vallow. Yeah, Charles Vallow, which, if you remember, was shot in the back by her brother Alex Cox, who said it was self-defense. Well, if it was self-defense, why was he shot in the back?
In the back? Okay. Yeah.
Why was he on the floor, face down, shot in the back? and we'll talk a little bit more about Alex Cox momentarily. Okay, so she's served. Now they have a warrant for Chad Daybell's property in Idaho to go look for these babies, look for these kids. So the remains of Tylee Ryan and Joshua J.J. Vallow, the two missing children of Lori Vallow, were found in June 2020. So this was several months after nobody had seen them, on the property of Chad Daybell, Lori's new husband, in Fremont County, Idaho. The police had been investigating the children's disappearance for months and had executed several search warrants on various properties associated with Lori and Chad. After conducting an extensive search of the property, law enforcement discovered the charred remains of Tylee Ryan in a pet cemetery. And what they found were just basically puddles and globs of flesh and bone, but nothing like all in one spot, not all of the remains of Tylee. And they were very charred, but also like pieces of flesh is how it was described.
Ugh.
The remains of JJ Vallow were buried in a shallow grave. Remember, he was 7. He was found wrapped in plastic with duct tape around his face from the bottom of his face to the top. He was wearing little socks and red pajamas. He had scratches on his face, so it looked as though he might have been alive at the time of his binding and trying to free himself of that, and like it resulted in the scratching of his face and his neck. But he did have ligature marks around his neck, or signs of asphyxiation. So his cause of death was determined to be strangulation, asphyxiation, and Tylee's cause of death has yet to be determined because frankly there's just not enough of her to determine that at this time. So the police had been suspicious of Lori and Chad since the children's disappearance in September 2019, as they provided multiple false, inconsistent statements to authorities. The investigation had revealed that Lori had joined a Doomsday cult and believed that her children were zombies and that their deaths were necessary to fulfill her religious beliefs. Following the discovery of the children's remains, Lori was charged with multiple counts of conspiracy to commit murder, first-degree murder, and other related crimes. Chad was also charged with multiple counts of conspiracy to commit murder, first-degree murder, and other related crimes, as well as the murder of his previous wife, Tammy Daybell, which we'll get to when we talk about the trial recap. The discovery of the children's remains provided the evidence needed to bring charges against Lori and Chad and shed light on the dark and twisted world of the Doomsday cult that they had become involved in.
Here's why I think that's bullshit.
Is it the zombie part? Is that the bullshit part? Or was there a different?
So here's why I think that's bullshit, because if you really do believe, and you see this a lot in true crime world, where it's like the world's gonna end, my deity is telling me that bad things are coming, and so I need to save my offspring from this, I need to kill them. Then why did you hide it? If this is what somebody's telling you to do, like whatever God you pray to, then why would you hide it? You wouldn't, because you'd be like, this is the right thing.
No, you're like, this is what I believe.
Yeah, this is okay. So if this is truly what you did believe and you thought that you were right, then you wouldn't make the attempt to hide it. Or you're just a fucking monster and you murdered your children because they were an inconvenience to you.
And there were people she had shared, like the zombie ideology that she had and the Doomsday ideology, and then there were people that she didn't share that at all with, like her older son, I can't think of his name, it'll come to me, but she didn't share that with her older son. She didn't share that with, so the husband that died, Charles Vallow, the shotgun in the back, he had 2 older sons and they didn't know about this either. So there was a lot of people in her world that she hid it from. For good reason, like for her, she had good reason because she knew she was up to no good.
Right.
Her and Chad were already having an affair while his wife Tammy, was still alive, even though they were trying to be.
A month later.
2 weeks. They were married 2 weeks after her death. They were married 2
What?
weeks after her death.
Just very quickly.
Very
they-
fast, because they had already met. They had already decided they were sealed in another life. They were married in many lifetimes before, and she was his goddess, and she
Mhm.
was a resurrected holy being. And
Sounds legit.
That tracks.
and if that's your fantasy world, keep it to your fantasy world. Cool, keep it in the bedroom. Awesome, you do you. But now 5 people are dead. We've got 5 deaths attributed to these 2 people. That's a lot. That's a lot going on.
I
you
know that law enforcement's hands are tied with a lot of stuff, but I kind of hate how we keep seeing these cases with children that are missing, where it's like, hey, so where are your kids at? And they're like, oh, they're with Nana. Like, okay, cool. We went and talked to Nana. They're not there. Like, huh,
That's
yeah,
weird.
my bad. I forgot. They were with Papa. And it's like, nope, we're arresting you. Like, how do you not know where your kids are?
Casey Anthony, when they were looking
Right.
for Haley, and she was like, oh, I left her with the nanny, the Mexican nanny, Zanaya, or she came up with a name. And this poor woman who really did live in her apartment complex, like Casey, like pulls it out of her hat. And she was investigating. She's like, I don't know who this is, but like, oh, like, why does it have to be so like, why do you have to stereotype that? Why are you doing that? Like the Instagram mom that just accused a Hispanic couple of kidnapping her children. And that never happened. Never
happened. We talked about that in the Susan Smith case when she said a black man hijacked her, and it's palatable to American, like the average, I want to say average, but like to the majority of the American public to be like, oh, this person of color did this bad thing to a child, and people are just like, yeah, that tracks.
It's very it's not it's very it's yeah.
It's not.
Sorry, I had to burp.
Thanks, I hate it.
We are just a delightful trio this morning. We're not.
This is why we
very
don't record in the
classy.
morning.
We're not discussing at all.
We really are. We're doing our best, everyone. Okay.
We're here.
This was the only time we could record.
We're here.
We're here.
Well,
we're queer.
AJ, was that it for your update?
And by queer, I mean happy. All right. So the trial has started. No. Oh, I have the trial update now, which I will try to go through. I have extensive notes on it, but I'm going to try to hit the key points. So at the beginning of the trial, the defense attorneys for Lori were very concerned about her very delicate mental state. So early on in the trial, they start to present the evidence of the children's remains and show the graphic evidence to the jurors. And they had put in a request for Lori to be excused from the courtroom during that showing of the graphic evidence. And the judge said, no, like you have to stay, which I fully support. Like, and I'm glad, like, do not let this woman out of your sight, and she needs to see what she has done. So they continued to show the evidence. The trial at the beginning was very focused on Lori's mental state. The defense called a psychologist who evaluated Vallow and testified that she was not competent to stand trial. However, the prosecution countered with their own expert witness who testified that Vallow was not suffering from a mental illness that would prevent her from understanding the charges against her. So at the very basic level, she understands the charges. She knows right from wrong. She's competent to stand trial. Like, bitch, please. Like, you don't get that.
I'm sorry, if you're competent to make lipstick out of, Jolly Ranchers, then I think you're probably
you're fine. On the 5th day of trial, the prosecution called witnesses who had interacted with Vallow and Daybell after the children's remains were found. These witnesses testified that Vallow and Daybell had been acting strangely and seemed unconcerned about the deaths of their children. The prosecution also presented evidence that Vallow and Daybell had been involved in the Doomsday cult and that they believed that their children were zombies. The 6th day of trial focused on the relationship between Vallow and Daybell. The prosecution called witnesses who had interacted with the couple, and they testified that Daybell seemed to have a very strong influence over Vallow. They also presented evidence that Vallow had believed that she and Daybell were chosen by God to lead the Doomsday cult. So I just want to touch on this very briefly. So the relationship between Vallow and Daybell. So leading up to Chad becoming a widower, his wife was very healthy. She was normal. She was a librarian. They have several children. I don't remember how many. And he starts telling people, well, she's not feeling well. Like she went to bed with a cough and she passed away on the couch. Like she died in her sleep. So initially she was ruled as dying by natural causes, and he refused to have an autopsy. He didn't want an autopsy, like it's natural causes, like, but they buried her fairly quickly after she passed. Now, after she passed, it was about 2 to 3 days. Like it was really quick. He went to the school district where Tammy worked and requested the insurance payout, the life insurance payout that they had on. They had chosen each other as their beneficiaries, and I think she had about $100,000 to $130,000 life insurance policy. So just several days after, he goes into the school district and requests this payout. And the lady that was handling his case, who has done this for years, has never had a person go in there that quickly after somebody's death and be so nonchalant about it. And so she informs him, like, okay, well, you need to present the death certificate. And he's like, oh, that's fine. I've ordered 8 copies. So that was like a big red flag for her. So she's been testifying also. Yeah. So she's like, normally you would order a couple, like several, but 8 is like excessive. So if we circle back really quick to when Lori was served, go ahead.
So what I think is interesting about that is I recently went through a class where you're certified to notify families when their loved one dies in the Army. And it's like one of 2 things that you have to do. You're either the one that is the initial notifier, like, you know, like regret to inform you, so on and so forth. Or you're the one that comes in, and that's like a very short thing. Like you interact with the family for maybe a couple hours. And then there's another side of it where you come in after that person and you're the one that stays with them for up to a year and kind of walk them through the process of, you know, everything else, you know, planning the funeral. But when you die in the Army, right off the bat, your family gets $100,000 and it's called a death gratuity. And something that they kind of trained us for is that a lot of people don't want that. Because you got, and it's just like, you get it within like 48 hours, this $100,000. And it's to help with, you know, like the bills, because a lot of times the person that's in the Army is like the, you know, the main source of income.
Yeah.
Right. And something that they talked about a lot in the course was that people don't want that. They're like, you know, you go in, you're like, you're going to get this within 48 hours. Like, here's the form you have to fill out, everything else. Whoever's designated to get it. And families, they're like, no, like, we want them back. We don't want this money.
Yeah.
So it's, after going through that, it's more interesting to me to hear stories like, and you hear it a lot whenever people do kill their loved ones, that they're like, oh, well, I need this money. And it's not like, I need this money because rent's due. I need groceries. I like, the children need to eat. It's just like, yeah, I just need this money. When on the other side, it happens so often in the Army that people don't want this money, that they've added it to a course curriculum to be able to navigate that, you know, walking people through like, hey, no, like your family member wanted you to have this, you know, I don't know, like I don't want to say like you've earned it, because it's a shitty situation if somebody dies that you loved and then it's like, oh, you got all this money. But and then on the other side you have, oh, I print out 8 death certificates and where's my money at?
So yes, he requested 8 copies. And as you were saying, Randy, like that's, for someone to be that eager for it is very, it's not normal to be that eager for it at all. But by this time, now they have the children's remains. They are now suspicious of the death of Charles Vallow. they make the decision to go ahead and exhume his deceased wife, Tammy Daybell. And so as they exhume it, she goes back to the medical examiner, and her cause of death is now changed from natural causes to homicide, death by asphyxiation. And I'm not sure if I have it in my notes right here, but I do know that there is evidence tying Lori directly to that situation. Now, whether it's like she did the physical deed, or she was kind of or she was not kind of, but she was involved in like that masterminding of her death. Yeah.
Because he was the one that wrote all those books, right?
Yes. Fictional, apocalyptic, end of times, revelations, kind of books. Which at one point in time, like I did try to read, what was it called? Left Behind.
Oh,
like years and years ago, like when it was really big and it was like
those,
huge.
yeah.
I tried to read the first one. Needless to say, I didn't read any more after that.
I enjoy post-apocalyptic everythings, so
I mean, same, but it was so steeped in religion.
That was the part I didn't love. I had a lot of friends that had recommended it, and I was like, this is not my jam.
Yeah.
I think I read the first like 4 books because there was a lot of them.
Yeah,
and then I just didn't read anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Because I like any kind of dystopian, post-apocalyptic anything, but it was very much.
It was too religious. It was way too religious. Okay, so the trial also kicked off with the prosecution presenting a wealth of evidence against Lori Vallow. Communication records played a crucial role in the trial, revealing a disturbing pattern of behavior. Phone records and text messages showed that Lori Vallow and her husband, Chad Daybell, had exchanged numerous messages discussing their religious belief. And when we say numerous, we're talking in the upward range of 140,000 messages that were saved on her iCloud that one of the detectives had to read from beginning to end. And it took that I don't know if it was a detective, I don't want to misspeak, but it took that person over 200 hours to comb through these messages. And it was like, I love you so much. And this is when Tammy is still alive. Her husband Charles had either just been killed or recently been killed. Like it was very, very soon. Messages were also sent to Lori's stepsons that were Charles' older sons, and she let them know that their dad died via text message. And that it was, and that she was still waiting on the report from the medical examiner. And his sons are like, Lori, you can't just like tell us that and then disappear. Like, are there going to be services? We want to be involved. Like, and she just like ghosts them.
Well, there's that the police body cam footage of when they got called, and she's like joking with the cops, like, oh my God, what are the neighbors gonna think of me?
Like leaning against the car, like she used Alex, she used her brother like a puppet, and it's really, really sad. Okay, so we're talking about all their communication, all their text messages that were going on for a very long time. Now, at some point in their communication, at the beginning, they were trying to like hide it. And so they were going through like a third person to kind of conceal their communication. But then at some point, Lori just like straight up saves his number in her phone, but under a different name. She saves him as Bishop Chamoy to like
That's
hide
not
his,
suspicious at all.
not
weird
at all. And this is still while Charles is alive and while Tammy is alive. Okay, so witness testimonies were crucial in piecing together the events surrounding the children's disappearances and death. Family members, friends, and acquaintances provided chilling accounts of Lori Vallow's behavior leading up to and after the children's disappearance. Witnesses described instances of her claiming the children were already dead and expressing no remorse for their loss. The defense team, on the other hand, focused on challenging the credibility interpretation of the evidence presented by the prosecution. They argued that Lori Vallow was a loving mother who had been manipulated and controlled by Chad Daybell, leading to her involvement in the event. Poor Lori. The defense also sought to introduce evidence suggesting that the children's death may have been accidental or the result of natural causes rather than intentional acts. P.S. A fiber or a strand of hair was found on the duct tape that was around JJ Vallow's face. So her direct physical evidence is on that duct tape.
That's such a brutal way to kill somebody.
Mhm. The defense also sought to introduce evidence suggesting that the children's death, okay, I already said that. As the trial progressed, the emotional toll on those involved was evident. Family members of the victims, as well as members of the community, expressed grief and anger over the loss of the children. The trial became a grim reminder of the tragic consequences of extreme beliefs and the potential dangers that they pose to vulnerable individuals. The trial by no means is done or even close to being wrapped up. We are in week 3 of the trial. And the main theme is that Lori used money, power, and sex to always get what she wanted, including manipulation of her brother, Alex Cox, who I believe just days before he died of a heart condition, told his new wife, Zulema, he told her that he believes that Lori and Chad were going to use him as their fall guy.
And now he's dead.
So, and he died on the toilet of a heart attack, and we'll never know. There was also evidence of his fingerprints, I believe, lifted from the bag that was wrapped around JJ as well.
What?
Please don't let me die on the toilet. Please just not like that. Like, I don't want to be found like that.
That's a terrible, terrible way to be discovered. So far, that's where we're at in the case. Long way to go, lots of evidence to present, and by no means is this going to be done in a timely manner. So yeah, that's my update that I have on the Lori Vallow cult mom case.
Thanks.
More to come. There will be a part 3.
Yeah.
Maybe part 4 to be determined.
Oh my God, how bonkers. So bonkers.
Very, very bonkers.
These poor kids. That poor family.
So to wrap us up, I know we were going to talk some Lake Mead stuff, but I think we're going to save that for next time.
Yeah, we had a lot of technical difficulties this
Lots of technical difficulties, but I do want to share a palate cleanser from a newspaper article, if y'all will humor me for a moment. This was a newspaper article found in the El Paso Times from Wednesday, April 13th, 1932.
Okay.
And it is entitled "The Loveliest Jewess."
Is it about me?
This is about the loveliest Jewess. So there's a lovely picture, and I will send this clipped article to both of you as soon as we're done recording. Yes, and our loveliest Jewess, Randy, who is also the badassest. Badassest.
Love it.
Yep. So picked as the most beautiful Jewish girl in the United States, Miss Lydia Schulman of New York today holds the proud title of Queen Esther. Strangely enough, Lydia has never been inside a beauty parlor, so it's all on her own. For her beauty, she gives credit to her fondness for spinach. The queen will get a trip to Palestine as the reward of her pulchritude.
Okay.
The end. That's it. That's the whole clip.
There's just a lot going on there.
In those couple sentences.
Lot to unpack.
We don't use the word pulchritude enough anymore. I think we need to bring that back into our everyday vernacular. I believe it means just like natural beauty, charisma, charm.
Hold on.
I love how they're like, she's never been in a beauty parlor.
She attributes it to spinach.
Yeah. So yeah, pulchritude. Pulchritudinous is beautiful. Pulchritudinous.
That's it. It's just beauty.
Is beautiful. Yes. The sentence is Dan gazed admiringly at the pulchritudinous brunette. So.
Interesting.
Oh, very interesting. And she is quite lovely. She's very, very beautiful.
I really like
spinach.
this though. It says even though it looks and sounds like it would describe a disease or a bad attitude, pulchritudinous actually describes a person's breathtaking, heartbreaking beauty.
I've never heard that word.
I would like to crown our Randy as the most beautiful Jewess
Pulchritudinous.
Pulchritudinous.
She needs a crown of pulchritude.
I don't have a crown.
Anyway, I thought that was pretty awesome.
That was interesting.
Almost 100 years ago.
Oh my God.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I still think the 90s were 10 years ago.
Yep, same.
I know, right?
And they are not.
They are not 10
Nope.
years ago. Nope.
I realized that my little sister's in her 30s, and I'm like, Jesus.
Gross.
Yeah.
Ah.
She's also gross, but.
So there's that.
There's that part. Right.
She is not pulchritude. She
No.
does not have pulchritudinous.
Yes.
No.
I have no idea what she's doing.
Well, thank you for listening, everyone.
Please like and subscribe. Follow us on social media. Send us an email with case suggestions, or if you have a scary story. We're going to do another spooky story soon to get away from all the death and mayhem and bad, terrible things.
In other words, we're not going to cover a case for a while.
No.
That's what that means.
Doombringer AJ is.
Until next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
I love you.
Enjoy your pulchritudinous.